Welcome back to Story Hour with Dr. Jones, where I will be sharing some of the amazing literature written by our K through 12 students here at Success Academy. Today's book is called Breakthrough by Antonio Calvin II. Antonio is one of our high schoolers. Chapter 1. A man was strangling a little girl. He threw her into a wall and punched her in her chest. Her face contorted as she wheezed and gasped for air. It was a cool afternoon on the first day of May. A pleasant yet ominous wind whizzed through the air. The shine of the sunset bled through the large light blue and purplish clouds. The man grabbed a hold of her once more by her pink sparkly jacket and held her up with one hand. She attempted to kick, swinging her skinny legs towards the man's body, but she couldn't reach. Her right shoe slipped off of her foot. He took his free hand, pulled back, and struck her head. She fell on a split piece of concrete, excruciatingly on her side. But she didn't yelp or cry out in pain. The man relaxed and dusted himself off like he was clocking out from a long day of work. Then he picked up the unconscious girl and carried her over his shoulder through the alley. The smell of garbage diffused through the alleyway of two buildings as the man stepped into a puddle. A street light intermittently blinked as it turned on and reflected against broken glass and glowed into the wall of an edifice. Its dull, worn-out bricks were faded from the constant beaming of the sun. The man, dirtied with smudged water stains and slightly calloused knuckles, sighed in relief and tiredness and watched his surroundings as he walked to his car. He thought about what it would be like not constantly being on the run. He hefted the girl higher on his shoulder. The man walked to a shiny gray sedan and slung the girl in the trunk. Sweat fell from his eyebrows. The girl still lay unconscious in the back of his car. In her pocket, a phone lit up with a map of roads. Emergency blinked across the screen, and the phone vibrated resoundingly. He stopped abruptly and turned around, watching for every angle he could see. He swung the trunk open, felt around in the girl's pockets, and pulled out her pink, glittery phone. He quickly wiped it against his shirt, threw it against the ground as hard as he could, and repeatedly stomped it until it was shiny bits of glitter. Slamming the trunk, he opened the driver's side door and sat, closing it behind him. He turned some music on to relax himself as the car sat idly. He felt a deep, warm feeling in his heart that felt right and good, but something still felt off. 45 years old and a killer for 14 years, he always concluded to ignore that feeling whenever he felt it. He had just committed a terrible crime in the span of a few minutes. Although this fact didn't leave his mind, he felt relieved from the belief that he had gotten away with it. He stepped on the gas and turned down a long, winding road with trees squishing the path between them. The sky got dark almost as soon as he began driving. He murmured something inaudibly. He took a left turn and pushed his foot harder on the gas pedal. He heard something like a hitting sound, and jerked the wheel as he quickly spun his head around. He scanned everywhere inside the car. He saw his glossy jet black suitcase, now sitting on the ground, gleam into his eyes darkly from the transitioning sunset. He slowly turned to look back in the front. His sweat began to collect even more, and he turned on the air conditioner. He swiveled the steering wheel quickly to the left, making another turn. A woman entered a large-sized bathroom and grabbed a robe and a towel. She wrapped her hair in the first towel she came upon and flipped the robe around her body. She walked out the bathroom and went a long way to her kitchen. Decked with technologies and utilities, her kitchen was a splendid room with a higher ceiling than the bathrooms. She grabbed her phone and sat on a counter. Scrolling through her Facebook page and switching apps constantly, she stared at her phone and seldom laughed at something she found. After a 15-minute binge, which felt to her like only 3 minutes, she looked through her giant kitchen windowsill, watching some kids playing outside. She was jolted out of her trance as a notification dinged melodiously. Emergency, it read. Her brow scrunched slightly. She sighed as she got up from the counter and quickly walked from the kitchen through 2 other rooms, both sumptuous, and was met with a man sitting intently on a couch watching a football game. Baby, is there, by chance, anything important you forgot to get before you came home? She calmly interrogated. Like just throwing out examples here, your hand sanitizer or say your child? The husband's eyes popped wide open. His mouth opened wide and he covered it with his hands. My hand sanitizer. Oh man, I knew I had forgotten something. The wife's brows pushed against each other and her mouth gaped open, extremely appalled. Chris, are you kidding? I've had to remind you to pick our daughter up for quite some time now, and I'm getting sick of it. And why are you such a germaphobe? Sonia, baby, he started in a sweet tone. I'm so sorry I forgot to pick up Samantha. I didn't mean to forget. I was thinking about the game, and it just slipped my mind. Plus, she's probably playing with her friends right now anyways. Sonia thought for a minute, then spoke. I guess you're right. I did kind of overreact a little. She felt her face redden quickly as those words slid out of her mouth. Chris stood up and grabbed her by her waist. Let's go out right now, Chris demanded his wife lovingly. But we have to get Samantha. It's getting dark. Her words were interrupted. She'll be fine. She's with her friends at the park around the corner, Sonny. Trust me, Chris whispered sweetly. So here's a chapter break. So if you want to know how this thing is going to play out, you need to grab Breakthrough by Antonio Calvin II. You can get Antonio's book on our website at sablooms.org. Breakthrough can also be found online anywhere you can buy books. I'm going to tell you, this one's a thriller. Antonio Calvin, as you can see, is an amazingly talented writer. He was 16 years old when he wrote this book last school year.